In the past, photographers would choose the film stock that gave them the colours that most pleased them, and there was plenty of choices from Kodak and Fuji films. And besides that, we also had black and white films. Today, with digital cameras, we can tweak the colours to our own satisfaction, but there's something fun about old films and simulating their characteristics. And this is where DxO FilmPack 8 comes into its own. It provides us with a wealth of film types that we can choose from, and we can apply them to our digital images to simulate film looks. So let's take a look at the latest edition of DxO FilmPack 8. On launching FilmPack 8, we're presented with a DxO splash screen where they're promoting their Pure Raw 5, Photolabs 9 and Nik Collection 8, and any of these applications you can try out for 30 days or you can buy them now. Let's close this splash screen down, and here we have the contents of your computer, both with the internal hard drive and any external removable media drives that you happen to have installed. I have all my images on an external drive. We don't have to import images into FilmPack 8, and it relies on the file structure that you've got installed on your system. So here I've got all my images in one folder and they're all in date order. We just click on any of the dates there and I've got all the shots that are taken within that year. And if we click on a folder, and we have all the images on the right hand side here. Now we can enlarge these thumbnail previews by adjusting the slider at the top right here, and we can magnify these for easier viewing. To load any of the images into the main application, we just double click on the image itself and the image now loads up into the main application window. So let's take a look at the user interface. On the top left hand side we have the preferences dialog box, and I'll come back to that later on. Next to that we have a save button. Any alterations or customizations you've made to the image, you can save the image there with the new customizations or preset applied to them. If you do customize an image and make lots of different alterations to it, tonal values, etc., then you can save your settings as a preset. The next button is a compare button. But if we select another image here, we can compare the original to the image which we've just selected. So it shows you how much variation there can be on there. The next image is changing the reference image. Now I'm not quite sure how this works because we've got the original image on the left here and we've got an optimized image on the right, and if I do change the image and look at the thing, we've both the same picture is appearing in both windows, so I've not had this optimized image appear into this window here. I'm not quite sure how this works, so I'll have to look this one up. The next option is a side-by-side, so we can see exactly how the image has changed, and this I would have thought would be more useful as the reference image here. So we've got the reference image on the left, the before, and the after you've made your manipulations. We can view this in two ways. We can view it up and down, or we can view it as a split screen version by clicking here again, and now we can see the before and after. Click it again to bring it back into the original first setting here. Next we've got the zoom button. The zoom is actually you scrolling with your mouse button to scroll into the picture, and then if you press the zoom button it zooms back out to fit the screen. If you want to see a one-to-one reproduction 100%, then we just click on the one-to-one and click the zoom button again to bring it back to normal. The modify buttons, we've got a crop button here, and now we can crop the image in much the same way by using any one of the handles on the sides of the picture. We can also choose the aspect ratio. At the moment it's preserved the film format or the digital file format itself, or we can do unconstrained, or there's a multitude of other options below, plus your own customized setting if you want. The next button is the rotate button. which will rotate to the right. There's no rotate to the left button, only to the right. So in order to bring this image back to its correct orientation, we've got to click it once, twice, 3 times, and now it's back in its correct orientation. I'm quite surprised they haven't done a rotate to the left, although the user guide does indicate that if you use the Control and L, then it should rotate to the left. But I've tried 2 keyboards and that doesn't work, although Control and R, which is indicated by the button itself, does rotate to the right. The next button is an interesting one. It's the horizon button. So let's click on there. And we have a blue guideline here where we can set a horizon on. Now normally what I would do is take this one point here, place it on the left hand side of the window, and take the other point here and place it on the right hand side, ensuring that the line goes straight across. With DxO Photolab 9, we have the usual way of correcting the horizon or the verticals, and that's by clicking on this icon here, and we have the usual blue line that we can just align up to a horizon there, and then we click apply, and that works perfectly well. FilmPack has its own way of doing things, so let's click on this and set it on the left hand side, and automatically the line's gone down. Now my temptation, oh okay fine, so let's bring this one up to there, and no, it doesn't work. Maybe try again. No. Now I'm not sure why DxO have changed the way of actually adjusting a horizon. This way we click on this point here, then drag the line out to the right here and bring it down. Now if I want to adjust the left hand side here, we're back to square one again. So it's not a well implemented feature on this particular application. Needs a little bit of modification. However, once you've got used to it and do work it out, then it does work quite well. The next thing is just to click on the apply button and the horizon's correctly set. It does work. Moving on swiftly to the next set of buttons, we've got the browse button there. We can browse to the previous image, we can browse to the full folder of images, or we can browse to the next image. On the right hand side here we've got display, so on here we've got all our presets and customize panel. Click on there and we can hide it so we get a full picture on the main screen there. Click it again to bring it back. Then we've got a navigator here, so if we've zoomed in say to 1:1, we can use the navigator to scroll around the screen. And finally we've got the histogram. So now let's get in and have a look at the actual main body of the application. So now looking at the main purpose of FilmPack 8 is to actually provide you with simulations of various film stocks, whether they be color negatives or color slides or black and white slides in fact. Looking at the right hand side here, we'll close this navigator down. We don't need that, as the preview window on the left hand side will display the colors. So click on any one of the thumbnails and that color characteristics of that particular film will be applied to your main image. And on this one, if you hover over it, it'll tell you exactly what the film is as a 2021 Lomo Chrome Metropolis film stock. If you click it again, it turns it off. Some of the films, like on here, the Agfa Ultra, on the left hand side, we'll get a full description of the film. It'll tell you when it was first introduced and when it was discontinued, plus notes on the characteristics of the film. Now with color negative films, we've got 29 different varieties of film, so click on any one of them to see the effect of it. Some of these will be very subtle. To get the very best from FilmPack 8 is to ensure that your monitor is fully color calibrated. Changes are very subtle on some of the images. Now, not all the images will display the information on the left hand side. It may be just a question of clicking on an image and seeing the ones you like. and then we can go into the customize settings. We can actually filter the film stocks we want to look at. So let's uncheck this box here, and we'll go into the filter section. I'm going to uncheck color on this, the filter by type. It's now going to bring up all the different types, black and white and color. So let's filter it down and say we just want to look at slide films, and we only want to look at slide films in color. And now we've got 28 slide films here, and one of my favorites is actually Fuji Velvia 50. When I shot film, I always use Fuji Velvia 50. If we go back into the filter again, we can just look at the black and white slide films, and there's only 3 slide films around. These were mainly used for presentation work. Now, one of my favorite features in FilmPack 8 is the time machine, and we can find that here. But before I do that, let's clear all my filters, and now we're seeing every film type as a list here. So click on the time machine, and this will give you a visual history of photography, the processes involved, and also, so if we click on the 19th century, we'll see the first photograph here, ever created, and there's a full description down there. There's quite interesting reading on there. We can click on the next one, the first photograph there, where people are actually featured in the picture. One of the features I do like in the time machine is that let's click on 1910, and we can see the images here, and just click through each one, description. So I like the look of this. We've got a matching rendering button here, so if we click on that, that will apply this look to your photograph. That's a real accurate interpretation of the film stock at the time. And you can click on the next one, and we like this look of this, so let's click on there, and that applies that look to your image again. And we can go further into the let's go to 1980s, and one film stock I particularly like is Pan F, and click on there, and this converts your photograph into a monochrome simulating Pan F film. So there's a lot to experiment with there, and you can go right through to present day. Another feature that I quite like in FilmPack 8 is the time warp. Just click on that, and this gives you a visual history of the photographic processes. And when you see an image or a look that you quite like, then you can click on the apply and close button. So it'll work its way through all the different processes throughout the history of photography, and yes, let's settle for that one there, and it automatically applies that look to your photograph. Moving on to the next section, the customize. So we've selected a film look that we like, and I'm going to select the Velvia 50, and we can see here the wheels are looking very dark, and we could actually improve the image. Now with traditional film, we may have used filters, but here we can actually customize and get the exact look we want. So we go into the Customize tab, and we can go into Development, and we can lighten the shadows, and also lighten the blacks. Now we have altered the characteristics of the Fuji Velvia 50 film, but however, we are going to make adjustments to suit our particular image that we're working on. Bear in mind that FilmPack 8 is not an image editing application. Something like PhotoLab 9 would be better suited to that. But however, we can make some tweaks to the colors, and maybe traditionally we would have used filters to do that. So we've lightened the wheels up here, and also want to maybe darken the sky. Now we've got an interesting feature on here called luminosity masks. We'll create a new mask. By default, this will select the mid-tone. If we can see a grayscale here, everything is worked in grayscales. Unfortunately, FilmPack 8 does not have a hue luminosity setting. It just has a grayscale setting. By default there, it's going to select the center one, but I want to actually darken the skies a bit. So we can do that one of two ways. We can move this sliders along there to a lighter patch where now it's selecting the skies, or if we, another method of doing it is to actually take the picker, click on that, and then click in the sky, and that will create a mask around the sky. Now it's not quite accurate enough because we've selected the rails and everything else and the top of the train here, so we can adjust that. On this slider below here, we can expand the bottom range or contract it a little bit to take away some of the areas there, and then we can also move the right hand side there to increase the amount that's being captured. But I don't want all this in the foreground here, so the best way to get rid of that is to go to the brush settings at the bottom here, and if the brush settings are not shown, just click this box on the left hand side here and they will show. I'm going to take the opacity right up to 100%. On the very bottom corner we've got a brush and an eraser, so I'm going to use the eraser here and I'm going to just erase some of the areas I don't want to be included in this mask, which is the top of the train and maybe the steam that's coming out of the train there as well, and obviously the tracks. And so we're removing all the red masks on there. Now we can adjust the size of this brush by clicking on there and dragging over, or by using your arrow keys on the computer just to move this backwards and forwards. Now the user guide does tell you that you can use the square brackets to increase the brush size, but pressing these, it doesn't work on my system, so maybe it works on Apple's, but it certainly doesn't work on Windows. And also the feathering, I think the user manual suggests that you use Shift and the bracket keys to adjust those, but again, that doesn't work for me. Anyway, going back onto this now, so now we want to darken the sky. So we can go into this section here. The luminosity mask has its own light value settings. Don't use the ones above here in the development section. We're just applying these light settings to the mask only. So at the moment I can't see what's going on, so we're going to have to hide the mask. So go back down to the bottom left there and click on that to show mask. Now the mask is still in place, but it's hidden. So now we can go into exposure and just darken the sky a bit. We can take the mid-tones down as well. And if we see this very slight haloing on there, we can go back to this, the fade-in sections there, and just increase the amount we want included in there. And that looks fine to me. So that's the luminosity mask. We can apply several masks to there, so we can add a new mask. So a new mask, and now taking the color picker tool again, I'm going to select the greens, and let's show the masks, see what's being selected now. We can see all the greens plus the trees, the ground here. And if we don't like the color, we can also change the colors of the mask. So click on the mask color and let's choose a blue, and that shows exactly what's being selected now. Again, we'll use the eraser brush to rub out some of the areas we don't want to be included. I'm going to leave the trees in for this. There we go. Maybe top of the castle, we don't want all those to be included in there. So now that's our second mask, and again we can hide this mask and we can adjust the values of this. So maybe we take exposure down the fraction bit on there just to give the train a little bit more body, and that's our luminosity masks in a nutshell. Once we've satisfied with that, we can click apply, and now we can go back into the normal exposure settings and adjust the overall look of the image if we so desire. Now bear in mind that a lot of these presets that DxO supplied actually do simulate the colour of a film, the characteristics of a film. Now by making adjustments, you've altered the characteristics of that film. So the characteristics of the film are a good starting point for you. So you get the overall look and you can fine tune the image to suit your needs. Overall, I found this FilmPack 8 a really excellent program, and there's a lot that can be done with it. And as I said before, it's not an editing application, it's more for color looks. If you want to do editing, then I would suggest using Photolab 9, which is an excellent alternative or an excellent addition to this. And also from within Photolab 9, you can access the FilmPack 8 features. And if you're really keen on the film look, then we've got one more effect we can apply. If we go down to the bottom of the list, we go to Graphical Effects and select Frame. And here we can choose a film sprockets that can go onto the image. There, and we can adjust the size of these, and somewhere around about the 50% will make it look like it was really shot on film. Use the code Vincent15 to receive a 15% discount when purchasing a new license for any of the DxO products, and that includes FilmPack version 8, Photolab version 9, PhotoRaw version 5, Viewpoint version 5, and Nik Collection version 8.